All right, palms together, please. Homage to our fundamental teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Homage to our fundamental teacher, Shakyamuni. Homage to our fundamental teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. All right, please put Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Dharma masters, all cultivators, Amitabha. Last week, we have finished a brief introductions of the 3 Pure Land Sutras and 1 Shastra. Starting today and next Friday, we will be introducing the 13 Pure Land Patriarchs to you. So Buddhism has been passed into China for around 1,000 years, and there's a lot of high Sangha who have promoted the Pure Land Dharma door. However, only in the Song Dynasty has Dharma Master Zong Xiao set out 7 patriarchs, high Sangha, who have contributed greatly to the Pure Land school. Now they're known as the 7 patriarchs. And in the Ming Dynasty, 5 more high Sangha were listed as the 8th to 12th patriarch. In the modern times, a lot of people have stated that Master Yingguang is the 13th patriarch. And this can be seen in the picture here. And these are the 13 patriarchs of the Pure Land School. And today we will be discussing the first 6 patriarchs. They are the first patriarch, Master Huiyuan, second patriarch, Master Shan Dao, third patriarch, Master Chen Yuan, fourth patriarch, Master Fa Zhao, fifth patriarch, Master Shao Kang, sixth patriarch, Master Yan Shou. So let's take a look at the first Pure Land patriarch, Master Huiyuan. He was born in 334 AD and later became a monk during the Eastern Jing dynasty. Growing up in a scholarly family, he was extremely smart and had always enjoyed his studies. Now, when he was 13, he followed his uncle on a cross-country study expedition where he learned the teachings of Confucius and was well-versed in Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi's literatures. At age 21, having heard Master Dao An's lecture on the Prajna Sutra, he was awakened and realized Confucianism was not ultimate. So he decided to enter the monastic life under Master Dao An. Master Huiyuan was very vigorous in his study, and very soon his wisdom opened. At age 24, he was able to lecture on sutras on his own. Later, Master Huiyuan traveled along the river and arrived at Mount Lu. He saw this place was very pure and could become a monastery where people could cultivate. He walked to the east of the mountain and hit the well lightly with his staff and said, "If I have affinity with this place, then water will spring forth in this well." At these words, water gushed out from beneath the ground, and the place is hence named Dragon Spring, Longquan Vihara. Master Huiyuan was highly respected. More and more people came to seek the Dharma. The place where he used to live was no longer enough. He decided to build a monastery on the east side of Mount Lu, which is the famous Dongling Monastery we know now. At that time, the building materials for the monastery were insufficient. One day, the mountain spirit gave Master Huiyuan a dream and told him not to leave Mount Lu, saying that it is a good place to build a temple here. He said he was willing to help find building materials for him. On the second day, there was a thunderstorm, and a lot of good wood welled out of the pool. And the master used those wood to build a hall called the Hall of Shen Yun, which means transported by spirits. Since then, Master Huiyuan has settled in Mount Lu and has not set out of the mountain gate for more than 30 years. The monks and laymen from all over the world wanted to come to Mount Lu and learn from Master Huiyuan. At that time, there were 123 people who chose an auspicious day to form a lotus recitation society. He ordered Liu Yiming to write an essay on rebirth vows. From then, day and night, they single-mindedly recited the Buddha's name and practiced the way and sought to rebirth in the Western Pure Land. There were 123 people in the Lotus Society, of which had auspicious signs during their passing, indicating rebirth in the Pure Land. Liu Yiming even saw the Buddha in person. The practice of reciting the Buddha's name soon spread from Mount Lu to all parts of China. A later generation called it the Pure Land School, of which Master Huiyuan was honored as the founder. Master Huiyuan's method of reciting the Buddha's name is based on the Pratyapana Buddha Samadhi Sutra. It emphasizes on reciting the Buddha's name by contemplation, which uses a similar principle of Chan meditation. Master Huiyuan formed a harmonious and unobstructed style of reciting the Buddha's name through the practice of Chan, Pure Land, and Vinaya. Master Huiyuan devoted his whole life to promoting the sutra translation. Why? Because when the Dharma was spread to China, the teachings were not complete or systematic, which is very unfavorable for the decimation of the Dharma. He sent his disciples to India to get the original text, which also has 60 Huayuan Sanskrit texts. Master Huiyuan set up a translation studio in Mount Lu and invited famous Chan and Vinaya masters to translate important scriptures into Chinese. When the master encountered something he didn't understand, he would write to Master Kumarajiva and ask. Before Master Huiyuan, the translation of sutras was all at the expense of the state and the imperial court. Because of Patriarchs, the master became the first person to set up a private translation bureau in the history of China. In the history of Chinese Buddhism, Master Buddha Bahadra was a very important translator of sutras. At that time, he was in difficulty and was forced to leave the Guanzhong, which was the political and economic center at that time. At that time, after Master Huiyuan understood the situation, he wrote a letter to the king and the monks in Guanzhong to explain and restore Buddha Bahadra's reputation so that he could return to Guanzhong and continue translating the sutras. Later in 420 AD, Buddha Bhadra and more than 100 monks translated the Avatamsaka in 60 rolls at the Daochang Monastery. With this sutra in Chinese, the Avatamsaka Sutra was established in China. If there was no help from Master Huiyuan, this may not have been able to happen. In ancient times, the people had to bow down when they saw the emperor, but Master Huiyuan said that monks do not need to bow down to the emperor. He had heated discussions at the imperial court, and later the emperor established a law that monks do not have to bow to the emperor. Master Huiyuan skillfully reconciled the relationship between the royal power and the Buddhist Sangha. Therefore, monks also have autonomy in their purification in the monastery. This not only elevates the status of monks invisibly, but also enables the monks of later generations to promote the Dharma among the people and have more credibility. This law has left a far-reaching impact on the history of Chinese Buddhism. Master Huiyuan was very vigorous in his cultivation. In the first 11 years at Mount Lu, he saw supreme states of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in his samadhi 3 times, but he never mentioned it to anyone. 19 years later, Master Huiyuan in his meditation samadhi saw the 3 Pure Land sages. Amitabha said to him, I came to comfort you because of my vow. You will be reborn in my land 7 days later. At that time, Master Huiyuan also saw Buddha Yahasa's Master Huishi, who was his brother, standing on the 2 sides of the Buddha. Liu Yiming was also there. He walked over and said to Master Huiyuan, Shifu, you made vows for rebirth in the Pure Land earlier than us. How come you are coming to the Pure Land later than us? Then Master Huiyuan knew his time was up. He informed his disciples, I have seen the images of the sages 3 times. I am seeing it again. It's my time to go to the Pure Land. Master Huiyuan then told his disciple, on the 6th day of the 8th month, the master was extremely ill. All of his disciples knelt down and requested that the master to drink medicinal wine to cure his illness. Master Huiyuan declined. They asked, how about the rice gruel? No, he rejected. How about honey water? Disciples asked again. Master Huiyuan said to check the Vinaya on this one. His disciples went to look it up in the Vinaya text. Only halfway through, Master Huiyuan entered stillness. He lived to be 83 years old. This is the brief biology of Master Huiyuan. Looking at the master's entire life, not only did he contribute enormously to the Pure Land school, but also significant influence on Buddhism taking root in China at that time. Master Kumarajiva honored him as the Dharma protecting Bodhisattva of the East. Next is the second patriarch of the Pure Land school, Master Shan Dao, who was born 613 CE. He's from the Shandong province and left home at the age of 10 and was fully ordained at age 20. The master has seen the illustrations of the West. A seed of joyfully seeking rebirth in the West was planted. After ordination, he went to the library and prayed in front of the Tripitaka. Then he randomly took out a book from the shelf. It turned out to be the Buddha's Speaks of Visualizing Buddha Infinite Life Sutra. The master vowed to dedicate himself to the lotus seat and placed his faith in the Pure Land. He then devoted his study to the Visualization Sutra and the contemplation of the sublime Western Pure Land. Because Master Shan Dao admired Master Huiyuan's lofty virtue, he went to Lushan Dongling Monastery to pay homage to Master Huiyuan and his legacy. After that, he lived in seclusion in Zhongnan Mountain. In just a few years, he was able to see the various pavilions, lotus, golden seats of the Western Pure Land in Samadhi, as if they were right in front of him. He's attained the Samadhi of visualization. At age 29, Master Shan Dao heard that Master Dao Zhuo was lecturing on the Contemplation Sutra at Xuanzhong Monastery in Shanxi province. So he went there to listen to the lectures. At that time, Master Dao Zhuo was already 80 years old and was very happy to see Master Shan Dao and passed on his lifelong experiences and explained Infinite Life Sutra to him. Based on the teachings of Infinite Life Sutra, Master Shan Dao specialized in reciting Amitabha's name as his main practice. The Pure Land Dharma door has been widely misunderstood since ancient times due to its completely different practice method from other Dharma doors. In view of this situation, after Master Shan Dao returned to Wuzhen Monastery, he wrote the 4-part commentary on the Visualization Sutra, which stated Amitabha's Buddha's original vows and gave an authoritative explanation to many disputes about the Pure Land. After that, Master Shan Dao proclaimed the Dharma in Wuzhen Monastery and a few temples in the capital. In just 3 years, everyone who lived in Chang'an city became vegetarians. There was a grand occasion of Alaktivijara in every family, Amitabha in every household, and the Dharma was truly integrated into the lives of the ordinary people. The master was also very vigorous and diligent. He strictly observed the precepts and never paid attention to fame and benefits. He always washed his clothes and bowls, even at an old age. Wherever he went, if he saw a ruined temple or stupa, he would pay for it to be repaired. Master Shan Dao likes to go on alms round and would reprimand himself. I should not just sit in a monastery and receive offerings. Master Shan Dao exclusively practiced Pure Land Dharma door. Every time when the master entered the Buddha hall, he bows to the Buddha and single-mindedly recited the name of Amitabha Buddha, never stopping until he was exhausted. Because he was so sincere and so focused in his recitation, he would sweat profusely, even in the wintertime. This was a mark of his extreme sincerity. After attaining the samadhi of visualizing the Buddha, Master Shan Dao also attained the Buddha recitation samadhi. Among all the eminent monks from the past until now, it's very rare for one to attain both types of samadhi. When Master Shan Dao was young, he made his first resolve to be born in the Pure Land after seeing an illusion of the Western Pure Land. He knew firsthand art's impact and how it can teach living beings. Hence, he emphasized its use in promoting the Pure Land practice. Using the offering he received, he carved over 100,000 rolls of Amitabha Sutra. His drawing of the Western land of pure ultimate bliss can be found in more than 300 pieces on the wall. The murals found in the Dunhuangmogu grottos depicting the Visualization Sutra was the masterwork of Master Shandong. This is one cave that has the painting of 16 Visualization Sutra at the Dunhuang grottos. You can take a look. Dunhuang grottos and Dragon Gate grottos are places full of Buddhist art and rich cultural heritage. It's worth our visit. It's a place that's worth our visit, as there's a lot to learn there. All right, and this is great. Master Shandao was also the supervising director in carving the Vajrayana Buddha cave in the Dragon Gate grotto at Luoyang. Someone asked Master Shandao, "Will I be reborn in the Pure Land if I recite the Buddha's name?" Master Shandao replied, "As you recite, as you wish." Then Master Shandao started to recite. A bright light emits from his mouth whenever he recites Amitabha's name. 1 recitation, 1 light. 10 recitations, 10 rays of light. 100 recitations, 100 rays of light emitted from his mouth. Those who saw this unusual sign developed profound faith in the Pure Land Dharma without wavering or regrets. He was honored as the transformation body of Amitabha and was also known as the Radiant Monk. One day, Master Shandao hurried to the artist who was doing the illustration of Pure Land. Some people were asking why. The master replied, "I'm about to go. I only have a couple of days left." He entered Nirvana on March 14th of the lunar calendar in the year 681 CE. He was 69. After he passed away, his body was soft. His facial expression maintained the same. Fragrance and heavenly music resounded for a long time after his passing. Although Master Shandao himself had realized the samadhi of Buddha contemplation, when he taught living beings, he always advocated specialized practice, which means exclusively recite Amitabha's name and bow to Amitabha. He indicated that living beings' minds are distracted and coarse. The state requiring contemplation is very refined. It is difficult for people to practice. If one wishes to end birth and death in this life, upholding the Buddha's name exclusively has a higher chance to be successful. If practices are too complicated, it's hard to be single-minded. As a result, we cannot be mindful of the Buddha continuously at all times, and it is hard for anyone to attain rebirth in the Pure Land in this very life. So exclusively reciting the Buddha's name advocated by Shandao means using Amitabha's name to permeate our eighth consciousness so that every thought is filled with pure awakening. Furthermore, internalize this practice so we develop a habit of reciting Buddha's name at all times. Practicing this way in the long run, pure thought will continue every moment. Then we can accomplish the pure karma for rebirth in the Pure Land in this very life. If one wishes to attain rebirth in the West, one shall begin with training our minds. Don't wait until the brink of death because people will panic. Training the mind to recite Amitabha begins in ordinary times. Then whether we are reborn based on habits, reborn based on karma, or reborn based on the last thought, we will definitely be sure about our own rebirth to the Western Pure Land. Let's take a look at the third patriarch of the Pure Land, Master Chen Yuan, who was born in 712 CE. He was a monk in the Tang Dynasty. After he entered the monastic life and received full ordination, he began to study the sutras in depth and visit good and wise teachers. Later, he went to Guangzhou to study with Master Hui Zhi, who taught Master Chen Yuan that he should not cultivate to benefit himself only, but shall also use the Sutra of Infinite Life and Buddha Recitation Samadhi to save living beings. From then on, Master Chen Yuan put down all external affairs and went into depth to study and specialize his practices in the Pure Land Dharma. After Master Chen Yuan returned to Mount Hen in Nanyue at age of 31, he built a thatched hut there called Amitabha Terrace. He often recited Buddha and practiced the Pratipana Samadhi. The master attained the Buddha recitation samadhi at Amitabha Terrace as he often could see the extraordinary states of ultimate bliss. At that time, if people made offerings, he would have food. If not, he would eat wild fruits or grass with his meal. He only needed his clothes to cover the Buddha body and keep the cold out. Those who admired his lofty virtues came to visit him would only see a thin, unkempt man carrying firewood and carrying water. They all thought he was the master's attendant and ignored him. Little they know that that was Master Chen Yuan. Now, the master often teaches people to recite the Buddha's name to seek rebirth in the Pure Land. He would write the Buddha's name and words of Dharma on the streets and in the valleys so that people can read and share them among one another. Tens of thousands of people would come to learn from Master Chen Yuan. They observed where Master Chen Yuan lived was old and broken, so they resolved to build a new monastery. Regarding this matter, Master accorded with the conditions and allowed people to do so. Although there were offerings, the Master still maintained the spirit of an ascetic. In 802 CE, Master Chen Yuan knew his time was up. After giving instructions to his disciples, he sat in full lotus posture and passed away facing the west. The master did not leave us any written works. According to his biography, we learned that exclusively upholding the Buddha's name was his main practice. The practices of giving, upholding precepts, and the 6 paramitas were all part of his supplementary cultivation. Now, Master Chen Yuan also had the incredible practice of serving the Buddha when he was alive. At that time, Master Fa Zhao in Mount Lu was very famous, and the two masters did not know each other. But one day, Master Fa Zhao was in meditation samadhi, wandering the land of ultimate bliss. There he saw a man in tattered clothes serving next to the Buddha. The master asked who that was. Amitabha said, "This is Master Chen Yuan of Mount Hen." After Master Fa Zhao came out of samadhi, he went to Henshan to pay respect to Master Chen Yuan and took him as his teacher. Master Fa Zhao, whom we just talked about, was the 4th patriarch of the Pure Land School. He was born in 747 CE, an eminent monk during the Tang Dynasty. Because he received the true teachings from Master Chen Yuan, he composed praises and rituals of Buddha recitation in 5 parts, according to the sounds described in the Infinite Life Sutra, in which, when the gentle breeze blows over the jeweled trees, 5 majestic sounds would reverberate. Master Fa Zhao attained the Buddha recitation samadhi and had many miraculous responses in his life. At the age of 23, the master had an opportunity to do a pilgrimage to the Wutai mountain. Guided by the Buddha's light, he made his way to the bamboo grove of Great Sage Monastery. Inside, Manjushri Bodhisattva and the Samantabhadra Bodhisattva were giving a Dharma lecture to an audience of more than 10,000 people. Master Fa Zhao went and joined them. Master Fa Zhao respectfully bowed and asked, "In the Dharma ending age, living beings' roots of goodness are not as strong as those in the past. Which Dharma door is more reliable and suitable for us to practice?" So Manjushri Bodhisattva replied, "This is just the right time for you to be mindful of the Buddha. Among all methods of practice, there's none that surpasses Buddha recitation and making offerings to the 3 treasures, because cultivating both blessings and wisdom is the most essential practice. Therefore, among all dharmas, paramitas, profound cham samadhi, and even Buddhas, all come from the cultivation of being mindful of the Buddha. Hence, one should know being mindful of the Buddha is the king of all dharmas." Master Fa Zhao asked then how to recite. Manjushri Bodhisattva answered, "To the west there is a Buddha called Amitabha. His power of vows are inconceivable. You shall continuously recite his name without cease. When your life approaches the end, you will certainly be reborn in his land and never retreat in your cultivation again." Both Manjushri Bodhisattva and Samantabhadra Bodhisattva blessed Master Fa Zhao by touching his head and gave him a prediction saying, Due to your skills in reciting the Buddha's name, you will soon realize Anattara Samyak Sambodhi. Hearing that, the master's doubts vanished. He joyously bowed and left. So Master Fazal often taught others how to recite the Buddha's name in 5 parts with faith and vow. The most special was that the emperor became a Pure Land practitioner. Master Fazal was invited to the palace to teach others to recite the Buddha's name. As a result, officials and ministers all practiced Buddha recitation. Later, the master was honored as the national master with the conferred title of Dharma Master Wu Hui, which means the 5-part recitation method. One day, the Indian monk Buddha Pala, also known as Buddha Palita, said to Master Fazal, "Your lotus in the land of ultimate bliss will bloom in 3 years." When the time came, the master made an announcement of his departure and entered nirvana in full lotus position. He was 74 and had been fully ordained for more than 50 years. After his passing, Emperor Dezong conferred upon him the posthumous title Monk of Great Awakening. Now we are going to the 5th patriarch, Master Shao Kang. He was born in 736 CE and was a monk during the Tang Dynasty. His family name was Zhou, and he was fully ordained at age of 15. He's also known as the successor of Master Shan Dao. So one day, Master Shao Kahn's mother had a dream one night. A maiden came to her with a blue lotus, saying, "This blue lotus symbolizes auspiciousness, and I now place it in your care. You will give birth to a noble son. Take good care of him." When the master was born, the room was filled with blue light and flower fragrance. He had a noble look and was a very intelligent and cute child. But the strange thing was that he did not speak a word before the age of 7. Once his mother took him to the Lingshan Monastery to pay respect to the Buddha. His mother asked him, "Can you recognize him?" The master suddenly opened his mouth and said, "That's Shakyamuni Buddha." His parents were overcome with joy and knew that their son had profound roots of goodness. Later, they permitted him to leave the home life to become a monk. At age 49, Master Shao Kahn was bowing to the Buddha at Luoyang's White Horse Monastery when he spotted a book on the shelves emanating light. Upon inspection, it was titled Guide to the West, written by the 2nd patriarch, Master Shan Dao. Master Shao Kahn was delighted at the sign. He said out loud, "If I have affinity with the Pure Land, then light will shine forth from this book again." Sure enough, the book lit up again, and countless transformation Buddhas appeared in the light. From then on, the master made a vow. A solid rock can be wiped and brushed into particles, but my vows will never change. Since then, he has devoted himself to the Pure Land Dharma door. He then went to the Radiant Monastery at Chang'an specifically to bow to the 2nd patriarch at Master Shan Dao's memorial hall. All of a sudden, Master Shan Dao's portrait transformed into a Buddha in midair and said to him, "Use my teachings to save living beings far and wide. You will be reborn in the Pure Land where your mission is completed." This made Master's resolve more solid in terms of propagating the Pure Land teachings to the end of his life. A sagely monk instructed Master Shao Kahn to teach the Dharma in Xingding County. Being new to the place, the master used donations he received as rewards. He gave every child 1 cent for every Buddha's name they recited. After 1 month, the children's earnings gradually increased, so he increased the challenge as well, giving them 1 cent for every 10 Buddha names. After 1 year, everyone in Xingdi, both young and old, greeted the master and one another with Amitabha. As the conditions ripened, the master built a monastery at Black Dragon Oolong Mountain. During the 10 vegetarian days, more than 3,000 disciples gathered to recite the Buddha's name together. A transformation Buddha appeared from the master's mouth at every Buddha's name he recited, just like a string of pearls. The master said, "Those who see the transformation Buddha will attain rebirth at the Pure Land." His disciples, upon hearing this prediction, were elated and recited with renewed vigor and faith. And those who did not see the Buddha felt a sense of shame and became even more vigorous in their practice. In 805 CE, Master Shao Kahn knew his own passing in advance and gave his disciples final instructions. Joyfully aspire to be reborn in the Pure Land and have a strong aversion for Shubha. After saying these words, he sat in full lotus and peacefully passed into nirvana with light shining from his body. The weather suddenly changed, a squall erupted in all directions, birds called out in sadness, and the entire Black Dragon Mountain was engulfed in white. After the master's cremation, his disciples built a stupa for him at the east of Taizi Cliff to house his sharira. He was also known as the successor of Master Shandao to later generations. Master Yen Shou. This is the sixth Pure Land patriarch. So he's very special. He was born in 904 AD and was a monk during the 5 dynasties and at the end of the Tang Dynasty period. He started reciting the Dharma Flower Sutra since young. Master Yen Shou was a tax collector before he left the home life. He often purchased animals for liberation with the tax that he had collected. He was consequently sentenced to death due to misappropriation of public funds. Emperor Wenmu of the time was a Buddhist, so he told the executors to observe the tax collector secretly. Set him free if he were calm and composed at the fall of the blade. Sure enough, he was unperturbed by death. The emperor admired his courage and pardoned him. The emperor later pardoned him out of admiration for his composed demeanor in the face of death. Upon his release, the master left the home life and learned meditation from Chan Master De Shao. According to accounts, he meditated until he did not realize that a bird had built a nest in his robe. Master De Shao had high hopes for him. After studying under the National Master Shao of the Tiantai school, he attained great awakening and became the grand successor to the Dharma I sect of the Chan school. He was the third patriarch. While bowing the lotus repentance, Master Yen Shou saw Guanyin Bodhisattva sprinkle sweet dew into his mouth, and from then onwards, he developed great eloquence. Master Yen Shou had a difficult choice between reciting the Dharma Flower Sutra as a means to develop the dhyana concentration and propagate the Pure Land practices as he had vowed. Therefore, he went to the Chan Vihara of Master Zhi of the Tiantai school. He wrote the following words in 2 pieces of paper: single-mindedly practice Chan Samadhi and adorn the Pure Land with mirrors of goodness, and then prayed with utmost sincerity before drawing lots between the 2. The Pure Land paper was drawn 7 times in 7 days in a row. From then onwards, the master devoted himself to the Pure Land practice with solid resolve. At 57, the emperor of the Wu kingdom invited the master to be the abbot of Yongming Monastery at Hangzhou, attracting more than 2,000 Buddhists in the 15 years he lived there. Therefore, he was also known as the Master Yen Shou of Yongming. As the third patriarch of the Dharma I lineage, the master advocated both Chan and Pure Land, as well as equally emphasizing on Chan and precepts. Every day, the master would recite the Buddha's name 100,000 times. At night, he would walk to another mountain peak, reciting the Buddha's name, followed by hundreds of practitioners with heavenly music reverberating in their ears. The master believed in demonstrating the principle through practices, relying on the principles to accomplish practices. It means only through one's good deeds can the principle be demonstrated. Therefore, he embodied the principles by cultivating 108 Buddhist practices every day, upholding mantras, reciting the Buddha's name, bowing to the Buddha, practice giving food to ghosts, bowing to in repentance, walking meditation, reciting sutras, repairing roads, constructing ships, building pavilions, providing medicines, and etc. He recited the Lotus Sutra 13,000 times in his lifetime. The era the master lived in was in the end of the Tang Dynasty and the Five Dynasty period. This is post after the Hui Chang prosecution of Buddhism in 1845 CE, the action of Emperor Wuzong's order to destroy Buddhism throughout the entire country. The sutras and commentaries, which were basis of many Buddhist practices, have either been destroyed or lost. As a result, various sects have their own opinions on the methods and theories of practice. The master took the stand to harmonize these differences. So he invited monks from different schools, such as consciousness only of Tamsaka and Tiantai, to compile the writings of 300 Indian and Chinese sages. They collected the Mahayana scriptures extensively, inquired each other, then compiled 100 volumes of records of mind mirror. This is an amazing work. From the very beginning, it states that the mind is the basis of mirror dharmas, and all dharmas are manifested from this mind. No matter which dharma door or sect we practice, it is all developed from the single present thought of our mind, from which all schools of thought in Buddhism was harmonized. So it's saying that the one mind as the principle to reflect mirror dharmas like a mirror. So all principles, all Buddha dharmas, they all ultimately go back into the mind. The 108 Buddhist practices the master cultivated every day included the practice of various Buddhist schools. In the end, he would dedicate the goodness and merits he practiced to rebirth in the West. This is the cultivation and final goal advocated Master Yongming Yanshou. This is exactly what he meant by mere goodness all return to the Pure Land. This concept has a profound impact on the practitioners in the later generations. And this was later advocated by Master Oyi, the ninth patriarch of the Pure Land school. Now, so no matter what Dharma we practice nowadays, all our dedication to merit always is to wish to be reborn in the Western Pure Land. So in the morning of the 26th, the second lunar month in 975 CE, the master lit the incense, bade farewell to everyone present, and entered nirvana in full lotus position. He was 72. And so in Master Hansha's journey in the dreamland, it actually indicates that Master Yongming Yangshou is the manifestation of Amitabha Buddha. Here's the story. On the emperor's birthday, he wished to make offerings to all the monastics. If you're a monk, you can come in to receive the offerings. There's a head at the table, but no one wanted to sit there because these virtuous monks yielded to each other. At this time, a monk with very long ears came in dressed in sloppy clothes. Nobody knew him. Without invitation, this long-eared monk sat down at the head of the seat. The emperor was irritated seeing this, because he had reserved that seat for Master Yongming Yanshou. So the emperor drove out this long-eared monk, who then went back to the mountains. Later, the emperor asked Master Yongming Yanshou, "Was there any sagely monk who came to receive my offering today?" The master said, "Yes,
Samadhi light Buddha came, and that was the long-eared monk. So that was the one who was at the head table. When the emperor heard this, he was extremely regretful and immediately drove to express his thanks in person. The emperor said to the long-eared monk, "This disciple is an ordinary person with flesh eyes that cannot recognize the ancient Buddha. I am so sorry and wish to repent." Samadhi light Buddha realized that his identity had been exposed and said, "Amitabha said too much." Then he passed away. It turns out that Master Yomi Yensho was also a manifestation of Amitabha. The emperor hurried back to bow to the master. Unexpectedly, Master Yomi Yensho at this time had already entered Nirvana too. Therefore, people designated the birthday of Master Yomi Yensho, the 17th day of the lunar calendar, as the birthday of Amitabha Buddha, which is coming up next month, where the Gold Buddha Monastery will also hold a 7-day Amitabha recitation session during that time, and we welcome people to join us online. Actually, not only Master Yomi Yensho was the manifestation of Amitabha Buddha, Monk Fenggang of Guoqi Monastery and the second Patriarchs, Master Shanda, were also manifestations of Amitabha Buddha. So we will stop here today. This is the end of our introductions for Patriarch 6, 6th Patriarch to first Patriarch to 6th Patriarch. Next week, we will study the 7th Patriarch to the 13th Patriarch. So there's a bit of assignment for people to do at home. Can do some research and think about this. So the great master Shanda and Yomi Yensho were both transformation bodies of Amitabha Buddha. But Master Shanda advocated exclusive practice in reciting Amitabha's name, bowing to the Amitabha. Do not mix in other practices so that it is easier for us to focus and attain rebirth in the Pure Land. However, Master Yomi Yensho advocated myriad practices and good deeds return to the Pure Land. One not only recites the Buddha's name, but also cultivates other Dharma doors and transfers all meritorious virtues towards the rebirth in the Pure Land. Since both masters are Amitabha Buddha's transformation body, why are they teaching us two very different methods of Pure Land practice? So you can do some research or see what you learned from our discussion today, and then you can turn in the assignment by next Thursday. It can be from like 200 words to 300 words. If there's a lot you want to say, please do not exceed over the 400-word limit. So this is the end of lecture today. Let us dedicate the merit.
May the merit from this practice adorn all the Buddhas, then repay the kindness from above and rescue those in path below. May all who see or hear of this resolve upon awakening, and when this body meets and be born together in the lands of bliss. 干拜。好，阿弥陀佛。